Wilson. I'm a third-year law student at UMKC. In April, helped start KC Legal Hackers with Dazza and Paul at the UMKC Prototype Gym, where we worked on some of these projects and helped move them along. Then we've got a bunch of collaborators, including Paul, who's on this hangout with me. Oh, whoops.
Great question. Hi guys, can you? Oh,
my bad.
Oh.
Hi, can you hear us now?
Yes.
Great.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
Thank you.
Who else? Let me jump back off of this real quick. Who else there on your end?
So my name is Laura Melly. Oh, I'm not really here. My name is Laura Melly, and I'm the Senior Procurement Lead for the IT Department here at the City of Boston.
Okay.
And you might remember me, Nigel. I did the demo with you guys a few weeks ago.
Yeah, awesome. Okay.
And I'm Paul.
Good to see you both again.
Thank you.
Yeah, me too. We've actually, I think, made some pretty solid headway in this project, or at least have better examples to help convey what it is we've been trying to do for a while. So we've been working on this stuff in collaboration with Dazza and a bunch of other people, and it's sort of morphed from a product that was designed to open up a lot of smart city data into developing an actual platform that will allow city attorneys to go in and make things easier, so that you only have to do things once in order to open up a lot of data, instead of having to write each agreement for each use case a million times as people want more and more data open up. So our approach is really sort of a system rules approach, and this is our mission. We believe that there's a lot of potential in data that is not yet opened, but could be opened if you filled out some form of agreement. So that could be a Freedom of Information Act request. That could be in Kansas City. I worked in the innovation office in Kansas City over the summer, and we had what we'd call innovation partnerships, where if people agreed to certain terms, they could access these sort of live streams for data. Maybe it's pipe data, and they're creating an application that monitors the water pressure in the city pipes to prevent flooding or prevent pipe breaks and water main breaks. So we're trying to figure out how we can open up data to useful applications in a way that's responsible and does so efficiently, so that you don't have to repeat this process 1,000 times. And then the approach that we've refined and developed has actually produced a lot of cool benefits. It increases the transparency between the citizens and the government. It allows city attorneys to spend more time working on substantive tasks instead of rote ones. And then applied broadly, it can lead to improved access to justice, reduced discrimination, and deterred corrupt practices. And having sort of a computational approach to all of this stuff leads to more succinct policy, and can ultimately, if tracked the way that we want it to be tracked, like this contract data can help lead to more representative best practices, and it will be beneficial on the sort of grassroots Code for America legal hackers front, where citizens are trying to engage, but oftentimes they encounter some roadblocks, and maybe this eliminates one or two of those. So currently there's open data, and this is a sample of Kansas City's open data portal. I took a while ago, I think, but you can access it. You can go on there. You can find machine readable information. You can use it to create apps, and you can do very useful things. And so our real goal is to get beyond this. What's the next thing? And so the types of users that we're going to have is our citizen hackers, internal workers, researchers, academics, reporters, and startups. And we think that every agreement should be thought of as sort of a layered series of obligations. And in these layers, you'll have minimum standards that are based mainly on the type of agreement. And then additionally, you'll have more specific obligations and then user information. And when all of those things are combined, it should, in theory, generate the right agreement for that person in the situation that they're in. So we're really thinking about contracts as a type of data. So on the left, there's a sample of a data sharing agreement we developed over the National Day of Civic Hacking in June. And we developed this agreement by sifting through probably 20 or 30 different data sharing agreements, identifying which elements are the most common elements to those agreements, labeling those elements by their clause name, the clause type, where they came from, what the language of the text of the clause is, what the plain language of that clause is, and then some of the things we're looking to do in the future is maybe identify the rate of litigation, number of times used, and make it so that you can add notes to let people know about where or when it should be used. And so from this data, we've started moving towards a system of cards, and these right now are written in JSON format, which means they're pulled in from the URL into some sort of API, and it generates these clauses. And what's cool about these clauses that you can't really see on this slide is that you can click the data ownership clause on the right-hand side of the page, and on the back of it, all the source information, the plain text, the clause name, and clause type will all appear there. And so when you position this within the context of an agreement, maybe your agreement's made up of just a set of cards that allows you to get a better idea of what actually you are agreeing to.
So unfortunately, Nigel and I both have meetings at 4 o'clock, but I would love to set up a time to look through this in more detail with you guys and see how you set it up and the type of information's in there. Sorry to have to run.
Oh, okay, no worries.
Would that work?
To write with them, I would say, like you should, that they can be responsive now, or you could email each other. Do you want me? How should we do this?
Yeah, email would be great. If we could email and set up a time to pick this back up. And I'm sorry to have to run right now.
Okay, no worries. Yeah, that sounds good.
And so over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be helping Laura and others to put together some, the plan going forward. So maybe, I don't know, do you think like in the next week or so would be?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay?
Yeah.
And you guys, you have what you're going to show. Can I just check? Are you going to show Q&A markup to ask questions and then to select clauses and put it in a template? Is that what you're showing?
Yeah, through the whole thing, basically run through that whole process and identify how we've started to improve the UI and UX of Q&A. Well, it's not improving theirs, but creating a new thing that's a little bit easier and more manageable to deal with than that. So
may I ask, do you have time, like another 10 or 15 minutes to do it? And if you do, I can stick with you. We could do the demo now and then actually send around the URL to the YouTube, because this is being broadcast. Would that be okay? So at least you can see it, and then the subsequent meeting could be talking about it?
Whatever's best for you guys. Yeah, I'd love to have sort of an interactive piece because we're thinking about trying to build some other types of Q&A and templates and walking people through it. So I'd love to talk about how you did that in a big picture way. And honestly, I might not have time to sit down and watch it until like I have a meeting with you guys on my calendar. But yeah. So speaking of meetings, I do have to run. But shoot me an email, and I'd love to continue the conversation.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Nice meeting you.
let's go ahead and do the demo with Dazza.
Okay.
I think that will help us work out some issues.
Okay.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Hey, guys. So sorry, I apologize for that. We had a lot more to cover in the meeting than I thought. Do you guys want to just go forward and finish the demo so that we can have it and I can go through and like cut the YouTube, like this middle part out, and we can just kind of, why not? Like, I mean.
Yeah, sounds good.
No, we think it would be a very good exercise.
Okay, awesome. So I'm just gonna shut the door and 1 sec.
Okay, I'll jump back into screen share then.
Okay. And then I can also do a little live thing at the forum.
Okay.
We'll fix that up, but
Let me know when I'm good to start back up.
Okay. Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. And so just FYI, Nigel did sort of do a description a little bit so that they kind of understood it. And as Laura said, we'll have to see where it's at. But based on where things had been in the past, it's really well aligned to what exactly she's trying to do to simplify and streamline procurement for agencies and help them with, navigating the process and getting into the right procurement vehicles and terms and processes. So it seems like it's a really bummer. I apologize for them having going before you were done with the whiz bang part, but the fit seems quite good, and it seems quite certain that they'll participate also in this going forward in collaborative ways. There you go. And I'm going to go on mute while you're finishing the demo until you say like you're wrapping it up.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so our approach is really thinking about clauses and templates as these sort of legal components, these layers that make up an agreement, and by reducing an agreement into sets of clauses, you can start to work with them in new and cool ways that allow you to see maybe more about that clause and understand a little bit more about what your obligations are in the context of an entire agreement. And so on the left-hand side, we've got an example of a template, and on the right-hand side, this is our sample clause library that we've been developing. And with the first clause, there's the operation of the sensor network. And when you're creating the clause, you might have something that looks a little bit like this, where on the left side you have the list of the elements that you can look for, and then on the right-hand side you can see what those elements are saying, what they mean, and maybe what you need to add to your agreement in order to make it the complete best representation of an agreement that you want to have. And so once you start combining the user information with the rules made in the legal components, the clauses and the templates, once you start combining that user info, you can get to a Q&A type tool where it asks you questions about whether any of the information in the document is, or any of the data sharing information that you're looking for is protected by FERPA, HIPAA, both, or neither. And if it's the case that one of those is triggered, like for instance in this example, we clicked FERPA's triggered. On the right-hand side, it pops up, your agreement pops up with a whole new set of definitions that include things specifically for FERPA. And so it really takes you from something that a city attorney would have to do an ask of a client. It takes a lot of that, I guess you could call it transactional work, out of it, and really reduces the amount of time that it takes to make a legally sound agreement that represents everything that the organization wants. And so here's an example of, like a visual example of how that user data can specifically be combined with the template on the lower left-hand side, and then how once combined it can generate this agreement that has the names corresponding with the user information. And then maybe there's something that's left to the attorney to determine after a lot of this stuff is figured out. So like in this example, section 8, there are 3 different options there. Maybe it's the case that the user can't access or can't have the privilege of determining the entirety of the contract, and maybe this is something that gets left to a later agreement or left to the discretion of the attorney who's overseeing it. So it's pretty dynamic in that it allows you to set up the rules where they need to be set up, and where the attorney needs to have more hands-on input, he or she can do that and set that up in the agreement itself. So this is the UI and the UX part of it that we're laying on top of the form you saw in the last slide. There are blanks where you can input the city name, you can put in the department that's involved, you can put in the address, and this really starts getting at having an actual interface that does sort of the question and answer type stuff and creates agreements based off of it. But this is where we are right now. Going forward, we're trying to figure out a way to better transform or transition just something from like plain text into something that could be in this system. And so on the left-hand side, this is a different agreement. It's a confidentiality agreement, but you can mouse over different parts of the text and say, hey, this is a clause. With this clause, you denote the clauses, you denote what type they are. You could say, hey, clause 1's descriptions, clause 1, section 1 is additional descriptions, so maybe the FERPA definitions would be a suitable comparison to make. But at any rate, once you start doing this, it tells you it allows you to go in and see which use cases start to pop up and how many different use cases you have. And from there, you can start creating questions and figuring out all of the available outcomes for what your system can produce. So, for example, question 1 might be a yes/no question. Question 2 might be multiple choice. And then here it shows all the available outputs for each of these different things. And then once these things are completed, you can go through and start assigning the text, start making sure that the text corresponds to, or different pieces of text correspond to different answers. And begin really going from something that's very, very basic in that it's something that's basically a Word document, and now you have this very cool, more robust system that prevents you from ever really having to fill out some sort of agreement template that you may have on your own. Like maybe it's a law firm or a city, they have a template that they try and use every time. Well, in certain cases, there are going to need to be different options based on the type of party. And so this allows you to do that. And all you would have to do at the end of this would be to enter in the names of the parties, the address and the location and the user ID and information that you'd have to fill out anyway. And this is part of the cool part, I think, is it takes this information and it changes or has the potential to change all of the pronouns in the agreement to make sure they fit properly, and it has the potential to make sure maybe if an organization is worth more than $3 million, you have a greater liability policy or something like that. So we're really excited about how this is developing and look forward to continue working on making it so that it's easier to go from something that's sort of hard-coded into something more intuitive that sort of works with text editors. So our next steps right now continue to be design the workflow for the various use cases and the users that we've identified, harmonize a lot of the UI and UX so that the overlays work the way that we want them to, and for the event that UMKC is hosting on November 14th, we're looking at building out the smart city use case from start to finish for all of the different roles so that everything is very precise and articulated properly. And that's it.
Okay. Great. Can you hear? Can you hear me okay? That was awesome. I apologize. I lost signal on my laptop for the last couple of slides, and I'm back on my phone now. But that was great. So I don't think I can stop the broadcast from my phone because it was just my laptop. It's a control thing.
Okay.
So what I'd like to do is, could we jump right back? Could you guys maybe invite me to another hangout so that we can terminate this one and it'll be easier to edit, and then just so we can just follow up a little, please.
Yeah, I actually have a other hangout link open that's just empty, and here's the link to that one.
Oh, could you email it, please? Just because I don't the phone. Okay, so I'm gonna and let's all terminate this one, and I'll see you in a moment. Thank you.
All right.